The 49ers made 0 picks on day one of the NFL draft, while their primary rivals in the NFC, I'm talking Lions, Seahawks, and Eagles, each made 2 picks. Did any of those teams bridge the gap with the 49ers or pull away from them? Well, let's go team by team, starting with Detroit. Detroit didn't make the playoffs last year, but they had a top 5 offense. They just had the worst defense in football, or one of the worst. Figure coming into the off season, they would make it a priority to just turn that from a putrid defense to a mediocre defense, and all of a sudden, playoff team. So I was curious, are they going to take another edge rusher? Are they going to take a corner or safety? What kind of impact player in the defense are they going to take with their first pick at 12? They took a running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, who I like, but I'm trying to follow the logic of the Lions. You're telling me that the problem with the Lions last year was their running back position? Because that's what they did this offseason. They revamped their running back spot. Last year, they had Jamal Williams, who scored like 17 rushing touchdowns, and DeAndre Swift, who they still have, but seem to be replacing. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry. They drafted him with the 35th pick in 2020. They're invested in him. Now, they have David Montgomery instead of Jamal Williams. That's a downgrade. And they have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's very good. It's a lot like DeAndre Swift. And why are they replacing DeAndre Swift? Because he gets injured? Newsflash, Detroit, running backs get injured. You drafted Swift with the 35th pick. That's almost a first-round pick. You had to learn the hard way that even because he's a good athlete and you drafted him high, doesn't mean he's going to withstand the poundings of being an NFL running back. So he gets hurt sometime. Not that much. And now you're like, oh, this guy, he's just made of glass. Let's spend an even higher pick on a running back who's like 200 pounds. You really think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be able to play 17 games a year, running the ball 200 times a year? It's not going to happen. That's why you don't take running backs that high, because they, say it with me, they get injured. So that felt like a lateral move. And then with the 18th pick, they took a middle linebacker who's not particularly explosive or quick. Tall, though, might be tough to throw over in zone coverage. Feels like a lateral move. Feels like a real wasted opportunity to gain ground on the 49ers, who had 0 picks. Lions picked twice. Niners picked no times. And it feels like the Lions made 0 ground. So good for Detroit, I guess. Then you had Seattle, who I thought had the best draft of anyone on day one. They picked 5th. A lot of people expected them to take Jalen Carter because they need to revamp their run defense. But no, Pete Carroll's smart, and he didn't spend the 5th pick on the draft on a run defender who has character issues and 6 career sacks. No, he took a cornerback who hits like Ronnie Lott. Devin Witherspoon, not great man-to-man coverage, but Seattle plays a ton of zone defense. He's going to be a perfect fit there. He's going to intercept a lot of passes, just like Tariq Woolen on the other side. That's a really nice combo. And I like that. I mean, Seattle has a bad run defense. They have a bad defense in general, so they're focusing on improving that, but they can improve their run defense later on. Run defenders on the D-line, those are 2-down players, first and second down. Take them off the field on 3rd down. So those guys you can find in round 3, 4, 5, 6 after the draft. I really respect that. And then after that, they had a 2nd pick. They took a wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who went to Ohio State. Now they have 3 really good wide receivers. They're a 3 wide receiver offense. You need all 3 guys to be weapons. This guy's going to be a hell of a slot receiver. He's going to be their guy who, the possession receiver, but also their gadget guy who does the jet sweeps and stuff. So that's a team that's sort of looking into the future, how to win in the future. The games are won and lost in space. Corners and wide receivers, those are 3-down players, big impact players. Love their draft. Then the Philadelphia Eagles, they drafted 9th. They traded up for Jalen Carter, who's like the highest graded player in the draft. They also got Nolan Smith, who's a lot like Hassan Reddick, a smaller, super fast edge rusher. Let's focus on Jalen Carter first. That was the first pick. Seahawks could have had him, but they passed on him. It's funny. The Seahawks have a history of working with knuckleheads. I'm going to call him a knucklehead. I'm not going to say anything worse than that. He's young. He's gotten into some bad situations. Knucklehead. They passed on this knucklehead, where they've taken guys like Frank Clark. So that was a bad sign for Jalen Carter. And then Eagles take him. I get it from their perspective. They have the best pass rush in the league. They're not sweating pass rush. They let Javon Hargrave go. They needed another defensive tackle. They take a guy who's definitely going to be massive, great athlete. Definitely will improve the run defense, like their first-round pick last year, Jordan Davis, who was the 13th pick in the draft. So, yeah, now all of a sudden they're much more stout and balanced on their defensive line. Good fit for them. But, again, it's the same question I had with Kinlaw. Are you really taking a 3-down player with a 9th pick, or is that a 2-down player? Like, when the Eagles are on 3rd down, what's their best 4-man group on the D-line if they're rushing the quarterback? Does it include Jalen Carter? Does it include Jordan Davis, their last 2 first-round picks? I'm thinking no. I could be wrong. I'm thinking it's Sweat, Reddick, Graham, Smith. No, I mean, Cox. Like, there's a bunch of guys you'd probably want who are quicker and better at rushing the quarterback than these 2 behemoths. But there's always, I mean, you want behemoths on your defensive line. I'm not saying you don't. But do you take them top 15 if they're coming off the field on 3rd down? I submit you don't. But again, from the Eagles' perspective, it's like they have 10 defensive linemen. They can do whatever the hell they want. Maybe they can operate a little differently since they have everything on their defensive line. And even though these are top 15 picks, they're still on rookie deals. They're not too expensive. They're probably not going to get, I don't know. I like the Seahawks draft better, but the Eagles definitely got better. And by making themselves so much bigger and stronger and stouter, more powerful in the D-line, that makes them an even tougher matchup against the Niners because the Niners are light on the offensive line, especially on the right side. So it's like you guys want to roll with Colton McKivitz? By all means, see what he can do against Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick. And, I mean, just wave after wave of extremely big, powerful, athletic defensive linemen. I mean, I don't know if they're pass rushers, but they're big, powerful, athletic. It's going to be interesting to see how those teams sort of bridge the gap with the Niners. I mean, you could argue that the Eagles sort of put some distance between themselves and the Niners. 2 really good picks, and the Niners had none. The Seahawks, are they catching up? I mean, you could really argue that they're a quarterback away from being better than the Niners. But then you look at it the other way, who's the Niners quarterback? I mean, Seattle's quarterback's the one that played all 17 games last year. Seattle's quarterback's the one who went to the Pro Bowl. I'm talking about Big Gino in his first year starting in a while. So maybe now that he has 3 good receivers instead of 2, maybe now that he has a decent defense instead of a putrid one, that team takes a leap and wins 10, 11, 12 games. Don't sleep on Seattle because just like the Niners, Seattle is in a very weak division. They get 4 free wins against the Rams and Cardinals too. I don't know. And is their offensive line worse than the Niners? No. Is their quarterback worse than the Niners? Probably not. I mean, that guy didn't tear his UCL, no offense. So Seattle's an interesting team. They have more picks today on day 2 before the Niners go. And I think this is where you're going to see Seattle address their run defense. Because right now, I think the Niners and Niner fans are looking at Seattle like, yeah, cool corner, but who's tackling Debo? Who's tackling Christian McCaffrey? Who's stopping the run? Yeah. Well, I think that's what day 2 of the draft is for, run defense. And I think Pete Carroll understands it, which is so interesting. Pete Carroll is like my dad's age, maybe a couple years younger. And he's so in tune with where the NFL is now and where it's going. I mean, he's a defensive guy, but he knows it's all about offense and it's all about the back 7 on your defense. The back 7, the guys who play 100% of the snaps. D-line, yeah, you want a good D-line, but those guys are rotational players, platoon players. They don't play 100% of the snaps. They're best if they play 60 to 70% of the snaps, so they're fresh. Do you really want to spend those, get those guys in round 1? I mean, if you're getting Nick Bosa, sure, because Nick Bosa is a 3-down player. But I always wonder about those D tackles you're taking, unless they're Buckner. So, we'll see what happens tonight. It's getting real interesting with the NFC teams. Niners going to have to find some impact players late in the draft.